Welcome to the second episode of the Yolo County District Attorney's Office podcast series, The Chronicles of Justice. The topic that we'll be discussing is human trafficking. The purpose of this podcast series is to bring awareness and prevention messages to the community, as well as give an inside look into the Yolo County District Attorney's Office. But first and foremost, the reason we do this is to have a victims first approach. My name is Kevin Clark with Yolo County District Attorney's Office Outreach. I am going to be facilitating the interviews in this podcast, and we are going to be speaking today with Deputy District Attorney Tiffany Susz. We will be talking to Brittany Bray, a human trafficking specialist from my sister's house, which is a safe haven for women and children who our Victim Services Department partners with. And we'll be talking to Lisa, who is a former victim of human trafficking and is now a survivor, who's going to tell her account of what happened. Okay, let's get started with Lisa.
I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and I was searching on Craigslist, checking on the free site, and from the free section I moved on to other sites, and from there I moved on to through searching for Craigslist, I had answered a bunch of ads asking me for an hour of my time. He sounded like a friendly guy, and he said I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do, and that it would be a lot of fun. And the other thing was is that he also had another girl there, and he put her on the phone. And when he put her on the phone, she sounded like she was having a great time. And he said it wasn't. You never had to do anything you didn't want to do. He made me feel really comfortable through the phone, and he kept calling me throughout the day to make sure that I was headed out towards him. When I went upstairs to meet him, I was extremely nervous, but I felt comfortable because there was another female there. We introduced ourselves and we made small talk, and then she left. He made me feel comfortable. He told me I was beautiful. He asked me if I felt comfortable taking some pictures without my clothes on. At this point, he made me feel like he was interested in me, seemed like he was interested in being my boyfriend. I let him take those pictures, and from there, those pictures proceeded into us having sex. He was just using me for. The guy called me again that night to see if I was happy. And then he proceeded to tell me how beautiful I was and so on and so forth. It made me feel like him and I could be this invincible Bonnie and Clyde team. The worst decision I ever made was going back. At first, the relationship seemed like everything was great. He was always with me, and it felt like we were in a business together. But little did I know that I was his business, and I was actually making no money because he would constantly be asking me for money. And if I didn't give it to him, he would take it from me. And if I tried to hide it, he would always find it, and no matter what, he would take it from me. This went on for almost 5 years out of my life. And out of those 5 years, I always thought he was my boyfriend. The whole time, I had nothing, and he had everything. While I was with my very first trafficker, I had actually had a client who actually made me think that he was interested in me and that I could have a relationship outside of what I was in, because I was very, very miserable, working all the time, having to sleep with all these random guys every single day, and then giving my money all the time over to this guy. So I had a client that began texting me and began seeing me. And I thought he was interested in me otherwise. I had the very first trafficker. He was gone by that morning, and at that very same day, that night, little did I know my new trafficker was coming that very same day. I thought my new trafficker was my boyfriend. Within the very first week that he met me, he told me he loved me, he told me he wanted to marry me, and he told me that he could help get me out of this business. Everything he told me was mind manipulation. He made me feel like we were going to get married, but all I had to do was every single week I needed to make a certain amount of money. I needed to see at least 2 appointments a day. I needed to make X amount of dollars, and by Friday I needed to give him all that money. Or every single Friday he came and he took money, And then Monday, we would proceed to do the same thing all over again. If I did not accomplish the set number of appointments he had for me, he would be verbally abusive. He would tell me how ugly I was, that I was a monster.
How did you finally leave the life? You said it was 7.5 years, it was 4.5 with your first trafficker, 3 with your second. Was there a decision made? Was there a moment?
My second trafficker was a hustler, and we had gotten into an argument, and I ended up calling the cops on him. At that point, that was where my escape started, and to leave everything.
And why was it difficult? Why?
I didn't think I had any other skills to be able to do anything besides this.
Did your family figure out, or at some point did you let them know what was going on?
A little bit of both happened. When I had called the cops, I was scared for my life, and I went back home, and I changed my phone number twice.
What were the signs you think they should have seen?
The signs I feel like families and parents need to look for is, where is the money? I mean, is it all cash money? Who is your child having contact with? Is it only one person all the time? Who are their friends? Because traffickers will isolate you, and the only family you're going to have is him.
Did you seek services after you left your trafficker?
I was able to find my sister's house, and they did have the services that did provide, and that helped me get back on track.
Were these services helpful for you?
This program saved my life.
Why is that?
They gave me, my sister's house has provided me with a community, has provided me with therapy, has provided me with job skills, has provided me with confidence that I didn't even know that I had within myself. It's provided me with the life. I thought I was going to either die or go to jail, and now I actually have employment and have freedom to do as I choose.
Was it hard for the trafficker to let you go?
Both of my traffickers have tried contacting me.
Is there a message you wanted to possibly give to those who might hear this that are being trafficked right now?
If you are a victim and you are still with your trafficker, please leave. You can contact my sister's house. It is a safe haven. I was able to do it, and I am a survivor. You can go from being a victim to a survivor. It is possible. There's a community of us sisters out here, and we are waiting to come and embrace you. Please come and find us. We are waiting for you.
Thank you for sharing. We transition from hearing Lisa's powerful account of her being the survivor of human trafficking to Brittany Bray, a human trafficking specialist at My Sister's House. And Brittany, what is My Sister's House?
My Sister's House is a nonprofit agency that serves victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And we're actually the only agency in Sacramento that provides culturally specific services for the Asian and Pacific Islander community. And while we specialize in serving that population, we serve all people regardless of ethnicity or gender.
Okay, what are some of the services that are available for victims of human trafficking?
My Sister's House provides a number of different services for victims of human trafficking. We have a 24-hour multilingual crisis line, a 6-bed emergency shelter, a 6-bed transitional home, employment assistance, counseling, and legal services, including immigration advocacy. My Sister's House is also part of the Sacramento Rescue and Restore Coalition, and that includes a legal forum, which is basically a group of volunteer attorneys that provide pro bono legal assistance to victims of trafficking. And that can include T and U visas that are available to foreign national victims of trafficking.
And what is My Sister's House doing to help fight human trafficking?
In addition to providing direct services to clients, we also partner with other community agencies. As mentioned before, we're part of the Sacramento Rescue and Restore Coalition that tackles this issue from a collaborative effort. And another main program of My Sister's House is the outreach and education component. We provide trainings and presentations within the community to bring this issue to light. We're also organizing our 8th annual Human Trafficking Conference next month on February 24th from 9 to 2 p.m. and it will be held at Sacramento State University, Sacramento. For more details, you can contact us at 916-930-0626 or visit humantraffickingmsh.org.
How are people that, how are victims of human trafficking able to get in contact with you right now if they need to be freed from this situation?
They can contact our 24-hour multilingual crisis line at 916-428-3271. Or you can contact the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline at 888-3737-888.
Now we're going to hear from Yolo County Deputy District Attorney Tiffany Susz about what Yolo County and the Yolo County District Attorney's Office is doing about human trafficking.
One of the areas that the state is focusing on, and our county as well, is the exploitation of children. So what we have seen happening, unfortunately, the trends, is that you have the exploiter, or what most people would know as the pimp, who seeks out minor children. They can be males or females, and tries to get them into the life of exploiting them for sex acts. So it's a commercial sex act in that the pimps, exploiters, are making money off of essentially having these children go out and perform sex acts for money and giving that money back to the exploiter.
So do they have a freedom to leave?
Well, you're talking about minor children, but in some instances you are also talking about teenagers. What part of the educational component is understanding that they believe their survival is on this exploiter. They depend on that person. Oftentimes what we're seeing is that the younger that the exploiter is able to induce the minor to become part of the exploitation and do these sex acts, the more difficult it is to get that minor out of the lifestyle, so that by the time they're 16, 17 years old, that even if, let's just say, the police were to see what was going on and say even arrest the minor for committing these sex acts, and then trying to then later get help for the minor, once they're released from incarceration, they may very well go back to doing the same thing because the pimp has brainwashed them in such a way and gotten them to believe that he's what they need for survival and they have to stay with him.
What has Yolo County done to combat human trafficking? Is there a county-wide approach to how they look at these cases?
Yolo County specifically has created a steering committee this last fall on the commercial sexual exploitation of children, known as CSEC. Specifically, this countywide protocol is to address how Yolo County agencies will identify and address cases where children are being commercially sexually exploited.
What is the Yolo County District Attorney's Office approach to handling these cases?
Well, any case in which there is an arrest and we're able to identify who the exploiter is, our office is aggressively going to prosecute to the fullest extent any of these cases. We'll be seeking convictions against exploiters and prison as punishment, as they're exploiting some of our most vulnerable, our children, in the worst ways.
Okay. And do you have any suggestions for parents, teachers, or the community on how to identify if a youth is in danger of being sexually exploited or is already being exploited?
Yes, what some of the statistics have shown is that a lot of the child victims that have been exploited have a history of either being sexually abused in their past or even at the time. It's typically 80 to 90% of the youth that we're finding that are being trafficked, exploited, have that type of history, and then 77% are in the foster care system. So those are vulnerable populations. But other things for people to look at that's important is the age of the child. As I was saying, one of the trends that we're seeing is that exploiters are trying to get them in the life sooner. So don't think that your 10, 11, 12-year-old may not be drawn into this because of their age. If there's a history of an emotional or physical abuse or sexual abuse, it's a lot more likely that they will get pulled into this type of life. If it's a teacher or people in the community know that this is a child that struggles, and if you see them struggling in school, or that their parent has some substance abuse issues, if that child's running away a lot, that's a red flag. I think one of the most common things you're hearing is parents, if they're aware that their child's running away and have no control over that, and then law enforcement repeatedly responding to those runaways. What the research has shown, and what's been playing out, what we see locally, is that it's a very vulnerable population. That a lot of these victims they're looking for love, they're looking for a sense of family. The exploiter knows this and they capitalize on it. It's very similar to the gang mentality when you hear of youths that get pulled into the gang lifestyle, that they're looking for that place where they're loved and a way of belonging. And one of the dangers that you see with youth that get recruited by exploiters is then there even becomes a hierarchy within that, where the child that's being exploited is responsible for recruiting other children into the life. And is showing them, see, this is a place where you can have that sense of family and feel love. And it's obviously completely misguided, but when you have a population like that, that's what's going to happen. And the exploiters use significant amount of power and control over these victims.
Okay, well, Tiffany, I wanted to thank you for sharing about what human trafficking is and what the Yolo County District Attorney's Office is doing about it. Thank you for listening to the second episode of the Yolo County District Attorney's Office podcast series, The Chronicles of Justice. For more information about our office, please visit our website at yoloda.org, where you'll find links to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter.